Hey everyone, this is Dan Beverley, and today I'd like to talk just a little about the importance of dialogue and dialoguing skill for today's leader. And I'd love to suggest 4 questions that you can use right away to complement and augment your existing communication skill set to help you have even more effective conversations that deliver valuable outcomes quickly and easily. Now, dialogic learning is all about using the power of dialogue to stimulate and stretch thinking, generate new insights, and create forward momentum. Its core principles are based on the powerful relationship between language, learning, thinking, and motivation, and it's hugely effective, which is why so much of today's theory and best practice of teaching and learning revolves around open exchanges that focus as much and more on the talk of the other person as on the talk of the teacher, the mentor, the leader. When we apply similar principles of dialogic learning to the key leadership moments, that is, when we bring a high degree of dialoguing skill, I believe it becomes one of our primary vehicles for increasing team engagement, creating elegant solutions, capitalizing on opportunity, and inspiring positive change. And if you think about how much of our working life revolves around conversation, this is a skill set with a lot of potential leverage. So why do we as leaders typically not focus more on building the skill of dialogue? Why do we as leaders not have as many conversations as we might? And why is it that when we do have those conversations, it's often more of a directive monologue than an open two-way exchange? Now, in my opinion, it's because there is an underlying belief there that dialogue just takes too long and is not a valuable use of our time. Generally speaking, most leaders don't have a way to hold effective conversations that deliver outcomes quickly and easily. They don't have this skill set as part of their leadership DNA. They don't have the habit. But let's imagine for a moment if you did, what would become possible for you and what would become possible for the team. To start you on that dialogic-based learning journey, I want to give you 4 questions that you can use right away to augment your leadership conversations, create cut-through, and help your person get clear, motivated, and into action. And the first question is simply, how can I help? Perhaps the most important question in any dialogue is the first question that follows your conversational partner's story. There will always be a story. Your person will have a story about what happened, where, when, why it's unfair, what should have happened, why they couldn't do anything to influence the outcome. And we then stifle effective, inspiring conversation by sharing stories of our own, by getting into all the detail of their story, by focusing in on the problems and jumping to lots of helpful advice. Now, this all comes with good intention, but it doesn't help your person get clear, motivated, or into action. So, buck the natural tendencies and ask, how can I help? What do you need from me here? Are you looking for input, or is it just a sounding board? If we were to take the next few minutes to discuss, what would be useful to explore? Now, an opening question like these examples will do 3 things. It will clarify your role in the conversation, it will give the other person a sense of ownership over the content and its direction, and it will serve to remind them of their own resourcefulness. They know the solution, they just need a thinking partner to help tease it out. The second question is to ask, what's the goal? And from there, what's most important about that? How does this align with our values and contribute to the mission? What will achieving this lead to? Most of us tend to get into the problems and the details far too early in the conversation and far too readily. Think of any inspiring, motivating conversation you've had with your manager recently. And notice your thinking wasn't down in the dirt, but it's up in the rarefied air. We want to elevate our conversational partner's thinking up and out of the problems, and the best way to do that is to redirect their attention to the goal, the vision, what it is that we're looking to achieve. And don't stop there. Get them connected to that vision of success. Ask, what's important about that? How does this align? Who else will this serve? What benefits will this lead to? Focusing on problems only ever finds more problems. Just that act of placing attention on the problem strengthens those circuits in the brain. So let's shift that focus by asking, what's the goal? Our third question is all about what's in the way. I'd love you to ask, what's making this a problem? What feels like the biggest blocker? What stops us doing this right now? This question set can be the real game changer in the dialogue because there's so much potential here to create new perspective and new learning, which are among the hallmarks of every inspiring conversation. But it's also the question set that requires we fully commit to a coaching style of leadership. Else we're likely to get pulled into problems, limitations, and drama, and the dialogue will be back at square one. So keep your thinking and perspective at the very top level. Rise above the content of the conversation and simply listen. Just log all their reasons and just get that list. No emotional charge, no story of your own, and no getting seduced by the detail. The temptation here is to challenge or ask for specifics or offer advice, but none of that matters or will help. Your conversational partner is stuck because they are believing something that makes this a problem or even an impossibility for them right now. It doesn't matter if it's quote unquote true. In this moment, it is a truth for them. And we want to start not by dismissing those beliefs, but by acknowledging them. So get their list and then normalize it for them by playing it back very simply and succinctly. So it might go like this. Okay, so it sounds like there are 3 issues: competing priorities, a missing communication process, and some confusion about roles and responsibilities. Have I got that right? Now, if you become practiced in this skill of summarizing without any emotional attachment, oftentimes just that playback will be enough for them to shift their perspective and know their next step. All of which takes us nicely into our 4th and final question: what's our next action? It's so important that we tap the energy of the last few minutes of dialogue and marshal all this good thinking into actionable next steps. So ask, what's the next action? Who else do you need to talk to? What's the time frame? Where does this belong on our priority list? What will you focus on first? Help your conversational partner get clear and focused on the very next step, something I call action number 1. So 4 questions that are simple, natural, effective, and really help us steer clear of some of the subtle communication errors we can all make in those key leadership moments. So we're going to ask, how can I help? Rather than assuming we know what they need. We're going to ask, what's the goal? Rather than descend with them into lots of griping about problems. We're going to ask, what's making this a problem? Remembering that our focus is on generating new perspective. And we're going to ask, what's the next action? To turn their energy and good thinking into actionable next steps. A final thought before we finish. To put this into practice, you have to be willing to enter into a conversation not knowing exactly where this will go or where we'll end up. That's essentially what dialogue is. And if you can lean into that idea, it'll deeply enrich those pivotal leadership moments.